so it's like there's a lot, and going back to the previous conversation, yeah, honestly, all of it fell to my sister, and I'm just helping her by helping do stuff for them. But ultimately, they're not asking me; they're asking her.
And do you think that's because she's the woman, or why?
Either way, it's on her, and I just do what I can.
Is she older or?
Yes, she's older by 4 years.
Oldest siblings, hands. 1, 2, 3. Oh man, it's a lot of y'all. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm the baby. Yeah. Nothing falls over here. Okay, anybody else, like your family, like your family structure? What's happening there?
Well, I'm the baby, so like right now I'm 22 and all my siblings are adults. So when I was younger, all I had was like one sister who was still in the house. So then I wasn't with my dad, it was just me and my mom and her. My mom worked 3 jobs, so I basically just kind of raised myself, to be honest. I'm the youngest. Got my older sister getting into adulthood. She too worried about herself. So.
Facts.
Heard that.
That is a
It's kind of
point.
just like when you're the youngest, it's like, and your siblings go off and they're like grown ass adults now. You are in the house by yourself, and you, since they are older, you've created this whole lifestyle for you outside of your own family. And I think that's where that discorrelation of when you were talking about earlier, how do you be their friend when you've created your own life outside of your family? And it's just like, now I have to merge these? What? No.
Right.
But yeah.
And then in comes that space of dealing with acceptance. Can they accept the person that you are? I was actually talking to a parent recently, and
One of your parents?
no, a parent, older, probably in his early 60s. He takes a lot of responsibility for the acts of his child. So if I'd have done this differently, maybe my child wouldn't have done that. How do y'all feel about that concept?
It's called taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Taking accountability of your actions. Because a lot of parents, not a lot, but some parents like to blame their kids for their actions. Oh, you piece of shit. Oh, you can't do this right. You can't do that right. But they also see what they do, what they see. So it's also based on how you treat them, what you said to them, how you raised them, how you were raised. Like that, all that like plays in with the child's life too, because it's not just your life. And like as the oldest, I'm always worried about my siblings. Like I always make sure I take care of them, or make sure they okay, or like just do the checkups that my parents don't do because they work all the time too. So it's kind of like being mom number 2. But in my case, I don't mind it because I feel that's my responsibility as the oldest. But a lot of older children don't want to take that responsibility, and that's also fair.
Yeah, fair.
That's not their kids.
So let's kind of back to what you were saying about having choices, especially as someone's child. When we have parents who are in this space now of wanting to be a friend or illness, how is everybody reconciling with that choice? I'm of the understanding personally that if I choose to take care of someone in my family, it is because I choose to, but I am well within my rights not to.
Right.
That's my personal feeling on that.
I do agree that it's a choice. And maybe I agree because I have the leeway to agree. I'm the youngest I'm the youngest. I have a brother who's 6 years older than me and 12 years older than me, and a brother cousin that's like 15 years older than me. So I've been the youngest and the only child. You know, I've lived both of those lives, and I also don't live with my parents, but somehow I'm still the one that's closest to my parents. You know.
Okay.
And probably because again I had that only child lifestyle, like I was between their relationship. I actually had a friend tell us the other day, say like, I told them that oftentimes people look at those of us who grew up in a 2-parent household like, oh, you had a privilege. But there is a certain type of depth and weight being in between somebody's relationship and how that forms around you and makes you who you are. a particular type of relationship with both them and their relationship.
Yes.
And so, in me choosing to be there for them, it's both a choice to overcome some of the trauma, honestly, that I've been through with them.
Let's talk about it.
And it's both empowering and scary at the same time. Because it's like, as someone who's helping care for you, take your medicine. Ha ha ha, it's cute, no, but take your medicine. And at the end of the day, if I want to drink some wine, did you take your medicine? You know, like, so it's a weight, and somehow it's also free, I guess.
You said an interesting word. This is real popcorn style, so jump in when you feel. So every now and again, I'll hear a word or something will come to me, and I'll toss the word out, and y'all do what you will with it. Trauma.
Hell yeah.
Let's go
My
there.
favorite topic.
Let's go there.
Actually, it relates to what I was thinking about. So, you mentioned about the gentleman taking responsibility for his son's actions. And from my perspective about forgiveness, which I love to talk about, forgiveness is that you have to own your part, even if it's only 5%, 1%. You have to own how you contributed to the situation and forgive yourself for it and those other people. Now, there were choices that gentleman probably made that he has the benefit of hindsight to say, yeah, I kind of fucked that kid up just a little bit. Like, I really should have.
Being able to admit
Dot,
that.
dot.
Yeah.
And so he's owning that and hopefully finding ways to forgive himself and his son for also not figuring out his own shit.
But you know what they settle for? They settle for I did my best. Instead of like, I'm a grown ass adult, now I can talk to you. Now I can tell you how I really feel because I processed this shit. And now you telling me this is all you can do? Tell me, give me something. Baby, I was working too hard. I'm sorry. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not enough when you get older. It's just like, you're older now, you should be able to communicate with your child. And that's not the case in Black families. We just throw that shit under the rug.
A little bit of, yeah, I got it wrong. I did my best, but I can acknowledge I got it wrong. And that never gets said.
Oh no.
So as a parent myself, I actually open up the floor, same thing with my daughter's father, for communication. I was very much told, because I said so, right? And so when she asks questions, I give her the reason for why, and I also let her know, just because someone is a grown-up doesn't mean that they're right. So I think that is something that's lost in, on a lot of Black families, and was definitely lost in my household, was being able to ask questions and actually be explained why this is going on.
Yeah, that's a modern choice. That's a modern choice of parenthood, to actually explain things to your children, especially again within our community. Like, we are probably one of the first generations that's really even had the freedom to do that, because a lot of our community was coming out of survival. I don't have the time to explain to you. Just don't do that.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna ask, why do we think that is? Why do we think that the generations before us handled things the way they did?
I think because after growing up in the South, a lot of things were kept hush hush. So at the end of the day, like even with my mother, when I confronted her about things from the past, her thought process was just like, we don't talk about that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's just something that they have been taught for years. That is how they have operated. And now they feel like that is how we should be operating. But we're not operating that way anymore. You know what I'm saying? I want answers. I'm going to ask all the questions. We're going to figure out what the hell was going on with this family, to where we got here.
Yeah, listen, I'm trying to take in everything. Just trying to hear the space. But I think if we look at our parents as ancestors and realize that they did go through traumatic things themselves and they did honestly do the best that they could. I do give grace, right? I think it's important to give grace if you want to receive it. And so just understanding the tools that we didn't have. We didn't have tools to talk. We didn't have tools to do any of that. So right now we're in a generation where that's actually coming. So like we have to pay it forward. Also like let's continue to push that. Also like try to teach as we're growing and learning at the same time. Like we're all learning how to communicate right now in the moment. Right. It's a process. It's a whole process to just learn how to communicate because we never were taught that. And we're learning how to do that right now. Like we're learning how to like communicate within our communities in a non-violent way, a non-sexist way, in an open way. Like I usually introduce myself as Aj, and I say I have they them pronouns. And so like affirming yourself, giving yourself like the room to actually be an advocate for yourself is something that we're not taught that. That's what systematic oppression, racism, slavery does to you. You don't have these skills. So we have a lot to learn. We do.
I really believe that this is the first time in a long time. Well, probably the first time maybe in American history where communication is a value.
Yeah. Yes.
Clear, honest, and intentional communication. What you say and how you say it is a value. It's literally why like industries have to change because that was never a value of how you spoke to somebody.
They're emotional now. Okay, they've turned it on. They figured it out.
And I'm supposed to care.
Okay.
You know, and address them
Now we
like that.
Emotions.
With humanity. We weren't dealing with humanity.
Yes.
Like we were dealing with employees, we were dealing with children, we were dealing with
Right.
all
Roles.
these roles. But now humanity. You have to communicate to humanity.
So in the same vein of humanity, we talked about humanity, we talked a bit about forgiveness. How do we forgive our families?
It sounds good.
Yeah.
It sounds so good.
I mean, I think that therapy is a really important thing because while you're healing, you are a light of healing. Like so anybody that's around you is gonna feel that you're healing and they're gonna be like, wow, like I probably should like start healing myself. So it's like it's a walk how you talk kind of thing. It's not like you can be like, yo, go to therapy. No one's gonna do that if they don't feel ready. You can't force therapy on them. You're not gonna do it. That's like most people in my family don't agree with therapy, and that's what we were taught. You know, don't trust the medical system. Don't talk about family business outside of the home. Like that's what we're used to. And so now we just have to get into this where we're integrating with what's old and changing it and transforming into what's new. Because we're gonna be the leaders of society. Like eventually, it's gonna be us leading everything. So eventually, that old way of thinking is gonna die. So yeah.
And forgiveness isn't for them. Sorry. Remember, always that's for you. Like I've had to think many times, like this has nothing to do with them. It's for them. Yes, forgive them for them as well. Have compassion. Love them. They are your family. Some things, you know, will cut you and scar you for the rest of your life. So you have to forgive them for yourself, for you to be able to be whole, for you to be able to feel okay around others, for you to be able to trust. Because if you don't forgive them, you're not going to be able to trust nobody else.
Yeah. I read somewhere that forgiveness is freeing the prisoner that's yourself.
Yeah.
You're holding yourself in a prison.
So, like I said, I love to talk about forgiveness, and let me go into a couple of things. One big thing, forgiveness is not a one-time thing.
Facts.
Life is not a one-time thing. That event that happened, but everything that you do has consequences. And so forgiveness is not a one-time thing. Somebody hurts you in whatever way they hurt you. Forgiveness might not come today. It might not come a month from now or a year from now. But when it does come, it puts you in a different place. But puts you in a different mental space, emotional, spiritual place. Right now, forgiveness is a continuous thing. I forgive you today. Tonight, not so much. Tomorrow morning, definitely not, because I don't want to wake up thinking about those sorts of things. But after I've had my coffee, I can get back to forgiving you. It is not a one-time thing. It is a continuous thing. The other thing is forgiveness is for you. Remorse, repentance is for them. If you combine the two, forgiveness and some sort of remorse, you can have reconciliation. which is good. That's where you want to be at peace with certain things. But you can be at peace with yourself by learning to forgive.
So here's a question. I like the way you put that. When dealing with people who struggle with remorse, you're willing to forgive, but they're presenting to you over and over again a face that shows no remorse deep down.
I'm glad
How
you
do we
said
move
that.
on?
The piece that I missed just now was that the number one thing that forgiveness is not, emphatic not, forgetting. You hurt me. I get that that's a part of something that you did. That's not the only thing that you are. But also, I remember that. I'm not forgetting. So, to some degree, I'm always going to be here or here with you.
Alright.
Not because I hate you, but because I'm continuing to love myself.
And forgiveness doesn't mean that I'm keeping you around in my close comfort all the time because I forgave you. Not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, Mom, yes, I forgive you. I love you. Even though this scarred me for my whole entire life, I love you from over here. You know what I'm saying? But I still love you. Like, I forgive you for me. But I'm not going to be around you like that because at the end of the day, I am going to remember what I went through. And I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping myself safe and at peace. And I'm going to still love you. But that forgiveness, like I said, it's not just for you. That's for me. That's for me to be good.
You work too hard for that.
Okay?
I'm gonna take a step back because you stubborn.
Okay.
But keep up. What?
So
I'm fresh on earth.
to bridge something here, as time passes, the roles, I think you said it earlier, the roles start to get a little murky because you're still someone's child because they're still here. But when the role starts to get murky, what are the steps to reconciling that space that you inevitably have to take on?
Reminding them that you're just a body they brought into this world and you got your own soul.
What are you reminding yourself of? How do you get to a place to even combine the forgiveness, the compassion, the not forgetting, and also the murkiness of this person who birthed me needs a friend?
That is learning how to give yourself grace. Because once you give yourself the grace in these moments where they trip you up, or in the moments where you think back and you could have done something different, but you didn't, when you come to like you give yourself enough grace to say that's okay, you can look at them a little differently because I understand my humanity better and I can give you and acknowledge yours a little better. Because, again, I put aside my ego. That's a part of giving yourself grace, because that's also a part of forgiveness, whether it's to yourself or somebody else. That's a part of grace, whether it's to yourself or somebody else. It's putting your ego aside, or honestly, I'd also give it maybe learning how to work with your ego, because your ego is there for a reason. Your ego is there to protect you. It's that little alarm sound, cool, but you have to work with the ego and be in awareness of it to give yourself the grace for the other stuff. Long. It's been a year, y'all. It's been a year.
Look, talk that talk. Talk that talk. You talking like you've been through it. That was, yeah.
I really feel like the older you get, the more that you realize that you go through different things, like she said, and you're giving yourself grace. Once I kind of realized, I feel like I'm able to forgive my mother a little bit more because my father passed away, and I had to like really think about the fact, like, dang, like this, it's my mom, like this kind of all I got. I felt that way about my father when he was passing away. Honestly, I just gave him more grace. I'm like, dang, Daddy, you done went through, like, that's crazy. It's crazy now because I'm watching you go. Some reason at that point in time, because most of the time your parents do go before you. Most of the time, it don't always happen like that, but most of the time, those are the times when you really begin to think like about none of this. It matters, but it don't matter in the grand scheme, you know. Like you really did come from them, and you know, once you really like kind of come into that understanding, like she said, lose ego, kind of just get into that natural understanding and love yourself. You are connected to those people, man. And you're gonna want to try your hardest to give them the love that you're trying to give them.
I would say it's hard to give a blanket answer to that because every situation is different. Like every moment is different. Things might not be as deep, even though you're in the thick of it. Like certain moments may not hit as hard as other moments have. So I would say it's an ebb and flow. It's like it's a moving process. There's no like this is the right way. It kind of is like you have to feel it intuitively how it's gonna go. There's really no right answer, but I think the advice that people gave can help.
And I want to just take a pause for a second and hold space for our sister. You know, that was, I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah, you appreciate it that you brought that to the space. That was something we touched on a little earlier, mortality. How do we deal with theirs, ours, because nobody's getting younger, and this concept of time?
I think giving ourselves times to grieve, like everyone experiences loss in some type of way. That's a common thing. It's what connects us as humans. We all have loss. We all lose people. We all lose relationships. We lose things that are valuable to us. And so dealing with the fact that we are going to lose people that we care about at some point is really just giving yourself space to grieve, giving yourself space to mourn. Like,
does it create an urgency to repair the relationship, regardless of if the time is right? Do we feel pressure to try to repair these relationships maybe before time because we?
Feel pressure. You can't force it. You can't force it. And also, like, the thing is that we have this relationship with death where we think that the relationship is over, but I believe that the relationship continues. It just takes a different form. So now they're ancestors on the spiritual realm, and you're still going to be communicating with them, and you still can do the healing, but it may not be that they're there in the physical realm, but they still feel you connecting to them. So even if they're leaving this earth, you shouldn't feel pressure like it's urgent. We gotta do this now. Like it should be you feel like you really want to heal from it, not like you're about to leave. We gotta do this. I mean, it should just be like it gotta be genuine. You know what I mean? Like it gotta come from a really heartwarming place. Like you gotta know, like I really want this healing to happen, not just like I gotta do it. You know, you want it to last and sustain.
It feels like you're using like information you learned in a past life.
Yeah.
It's just like wow, that's like okay.
Yeah, no, we can inform ourselves. I think we have a lot more answers internally than we think we do. I think asking for advice in the community space is always helpful because you need people in the space for you. But you have a lot of the answers to other questions you might be asking too. Like you just gotta really sit and meditate and tap into like what feels intuitive to me. I know some people are like, yeah, I don't know all the answers and we don't have all the answers, but some things you can really gather intuitively what you're feeling, what should happen, like how to problem solve, how to creatively figure something out, and also asking, you know, your ancestors for help. You know,
I won't even call it a devil's advocate. I'll sit on the other side of that and I'll ask everybody, pose a question. We're talking conceptually. Concept versus actual reality and practice. I think that's the space that we can know these things, yes, but anybody know grief? Sneaky bitch, nasty bitch, unforgiving, relentless. That space. How do we navigate the spaces of actually being a human and having to feel and time?
Tell us how or what we're supposed to do, honestly, till you go through it. spiritual journey for a long time. I literally thought that my dad transition was gonna be a whole nother thing for me. Like, I thought I was gonna be cool. I've even spoken about him as my ancestor before him, like not even bothered by it. You know, it was not until the time of that I had to deal. And we're sitting here, this is a year later, and I still feel like I just told him, I was like, it feels like, you know, it was last week. Because grief, this thing that happens, like you can't, it's not necessarily controllable. You do have to give yourself time. But that thing will take hold of you and you don't understand it unless you have like, till you go through it. You have to go through anything out there. Because I used to say things that now I think are outlandish to people whenever their people die. Now that I have experienced it, you know, that experience is a whole nother mother trucker than, you know, what we feel and what we've been able to study or what we get, you know, via the earth, via God. It's a whole nother ball game when you actually go through. So I feel like it's nothing you can tell anybody, but try and be there for your people as much as you can if you know that that's something to experience, because it's lasting.
So essentially what you're hitting on is a level of self-acceptance. Yeah. Is that something that can be adopted in the journey of the relationships with our families, and what does that look like? Especially in terms of attempting to use the forgiveness, to use the compassion, to have a relationship regardless of what they're bringing to you. How do you?
It's like, I don't know how to explain this. It's like doing the work of your own self-care. You know, it's figuring out what still lights up what would give you peace in the darkness, you know? And that's a practice, and that takes time, and that is something that has to be heartfelt, you know, like you really got to show up to yourself for. And that's what gets you through all of those, like that stuff, because, and then sometimes that is grieving, you know, that day, you just taking that day because today, I know I need it. I felt my nerves getting here now, and I'm here now. It's those moments. But, you know, showing up to yourself, really. And that's work.
Different things too, even with my family. Like I have an intense family always, like, you know, and stuff. And I came home from college once and I began to do my affirmations. I just started writing affirmations at the time. I had learned to start writing them. Just start writing. So they'd be arguing in front of me. I would pull out my notebook. I'm like, no, just start writing these affirmations. We ain't got to pay attention to what they got going on. And eventually, somehow, everything just stopped. Now, this ain't gonna happen all the time. Of course, it doesn't happen all the time. But you got to figure out whatever you can do in order to get yourself out of the moment. But also, like you said, that self-acceptance of understand, like this is my life, but this is still my family. I gotta do whatever I can do to get past this. You know?
Yeah, Allie touched on a good point, which was the self. It starts with inner. It starts inside of you. Like everyone has to have that accountability internally to be like, I'm really not showing up how I should be showing up. I'm really not. You gotta take accountability for your actions, and that can be tough for some people who are stubborn, stuck in their ways. For them to be honest with themselves. Like, I'm really not doing well. I'm not showing up in my relationships well. I'm not treating the people I care about well. I'm not even treating myself well. It really has to have that. You have to have that relationship with yourself to know, wow, like I'm not taking care of myself, so I can't be taking care of the people around me. So it's really like you gotta have self-awareness. That's the biggest thing.
So
self-awareness.
Here's a fun topic with self-awareness. When we discovered our toxic traits, and I mean the not cute ones, for example, being a people pleaser. When we start to navigate the conversation of acceptance, what does it look like accepting those flaws? Oh, I accepted this because this is what I thought I deserved. This is the love that I thought I deserved. This is what I accepted. How do we move on? How do we?
You just forgive yourself. I mean, you're gonna make mistakes for the rest of your life. And you may not know like the level of love that you deserve yet because you haven't been shown it yet. So you can't really be mad at yourself for something you never was shown. You gotta really forgive yourself. And really just say, I know that I can figure out a way to work through this. Like I think having a futuristic mindset on your growth
is important because right now I don't know what that looks like for me. Like I do people please right now, but I know that I have a growth mindset. I can figure out how do I get out of that. I'm not in a trap. I'm not stuck in this.
Did somebody else have something?
I say, I agree. Again, that grace, like that habit, creating that practice of grace, and then also, again, the self-awareness, being able to see, this was kind of like that last time 3 months ago. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give myself the grace, but I'm gonna see the pattern. I'm gonna acknowledge it, and I'm gonna be aware of myself in it. I'm gonna be aware of how I showed up in the pattern.
And also being open.
Yep.
Like, wow, I'm here again, huh?
Sure.
Wow, sitting on the edge of my bed just looking stupid. Like, wow, we did this again, huh? We did it again.
Yes.
That's honest.
Well,
I also think
How do you get out that loop? Like when you feel like when you feel like that, it's just like, how much more can I take of this bullshit? Like, how you
especially
get
when
out of
you're
that
dealing with
loop?
family.
I mean,
Especially when you're dealing with family.
you have
Like I know you're talking about grace, but like it feels like you have your own flow going on. But when you get in that space and you're dealing with your parents and stuff, it's a loop that happens. How and you try to explain them, they're not getting it, it's not clicking. How do you get out that loop? Nobody's told
Are
us
you
that.
in the loop or are they in the loop?
Whoever's in the process is in the loop.
I mean, you can't. No one can take. I don't think like you can take someone else out of their own loop. Like they're creating that for themselves. Like they're creating their own prison. Like you can't really. You can try to educate as much as you can, and that's all that you are honestly. You're not obligated to do anymore.
I hear what you're saying. I'm thinking, because, yeah, I see where you're going with that. I'm like, okay, yeah. Because there's a relationship in my family, like this could be a thing. Like, I want this relationship. I have demonstrated that I have grown as a person. I have apologized for maybe some shit I probably shouldn't apologize for, but hey, I am humble here. Here is my olive branch and my white flag.
Facts.
And you slap me in the face again.
It's a loop.
Well, I have a question though. Like, what's everybody's definition of family?
We're talking about the birth ones, the blood ones.
But are those is that a family? Is that your family or is those just your relatives?
Well, your relatives are what comes after you came out. The person you came out of. Your immediate would be your bloodline. So your mother and your father would be your family.
I feel like anybody that's in my bloodline, we're not building together, or we're not like actively checking in. Like, am I doing okay? Is our relationship?
But that's why I say
they're not my family.
But that's
You're
why
just
I say
my relative. You're just related to me.
I'll take that.
Like,
you build a family, like that's what we were saying earlier. You build a family outside of your family. That's known. That's just the person that's just who you are. You're gonna have that. You're your own person. But we're talking about the immediate family, the ones you gotta go home to on Thanksgiving, stuff like that. I mean, you could go to your immediate chosen family, but if you have, immediate family, like think about orphans. Like, if they had immediate family, they would go to their immediate family. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see where I'm going with this?
yeah, I do. I just think that we do have the choice. Like, I feel like, yes, I was born into this family, but if y'all not, why am I here if we're not getting anything out of this relationship?
So I think the choice is one thing. One thing I've seen over time, even personally, choice is one thing, but the desire is still there. I can't act like I don't want to be home with my family sometimes. I can't act like I spent years crying on holidays. I specifically do an event before the holidays because I understand the depression that comes with it. Because I wanted it as much as, yes, I have the choice to be here with you or you. It's great. But this still means something. How are we dealing with, yes, the concept, the reality, time, mortality, forgiveness?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about, we want, it's almost like a teeter-totter. We want to be there. Maybe it's not working out. We understand that this is the only ones that we have, but maybe it's some shit we need to talk about, and maybe you're never going to talk about it.
So, this is a concept that's still new to me. Some people cannot evolve will not let your relationship with them evolve. And so you guys were friends when you worked together at Macy's 10 years ago. But I mean, we talk every now and again, but like we don't need to talk about clothes and we don't need to talk about our horrible bosses. Like, we actually have other things, but like sometimes that's where people want to go back to. How they've known that relationship, and we were fine with it then. Let's just do that again. And no, it's like 30 years ago I was a dependent. Now you have to somewhat acknowledge you're dependent now.
You're a grown ass.
I have friends who
Right.
it's like, yeah, I have known you since middle school, but like your kids are like in their teens. Why are we still talking about like getting on hoes? You've been married, like, and it's like, yeah, I'd like to, like we should go on a trip and like try and do something. I was like, man, you ain't doing nothing.
You ain't doing shit.
I know
Go
you're
home.
white. You
Go
ain't-
home, Tony. Go
Please.
home.
But no, that's fine. But that's what we used to talk about 20 years ago. Before, anyways.
So do we just then acknowledge that those people just haven't evolved? Is that what that means?
Yeah, people outgrow each other. Like we outgrow. When you're growing in a certain direction and they're not growing with you, it's like, what do you do? Do you stay and not grow?
Do you stay? Do you still show up for Thanksgiving?
Is it helping you grow?
I would disagree that it's related because I've seen people who their careers, their relationships have evolved. They've grown into new people. Used to be, in the mailroom. Now they're one of the bosses. But they don't want your relationship to change because of what that relationship meant to them and did for them the 5 years, the 10 years ago. So they want to keep you there because that's what you mean to them. You give them that whatever and they want that still. But it's like, our relationship needs to evolve.
Good point. How many do we have parents in the room? We have a few parents in the room. From a parent's perspective, what you just said, okay, this makes sense. This is you're always gonna be somebody's baby. Even 60. Listen, shout out to Miss Ruby, okay, and my auntie Deborah, because when I tell you those two party together, and Miss Ruby is in her 80s. Listen, they gets down. They go on cruises and everything. Letting the relationship evolve between being someone's baby and someone's maybe not friend, maybe companion. Is that a route that this specific group thinks that healing can come from in some way?
I do.
Is that what healing looks like for the specific challenges? Because, we represent a lot of people in this room. When we speak, we're speaking not just for ourselves, but for people who can't be here, people who can't open up, people who don't feel like they have a voice, or oldest children who never knew that maybe responsibility isn't a thing you should have had to do, whatever. In speaking for all of the people that we are, what is the route for the avenue towards healing these family relationships in a space that still protects us, but does something for this generational thing that we're trying to do as a community?
I feel like people only allow you as far as they want you to go. So I've noticed, like, trying to connect with people sometimes, it's a back and forth. Maybe if there's some trauma that they have, some trauma that I have, that I'm not willing to open up, And so I think that a lot of the time when I get to know people, I have this blocked off side of me because I don't trust myself a lot of the times, right? I'm always looking to other people to reassure me. And so at some point, if I don't have the ability to
I don't even know what it was. Sorry.
It's fine.
Thank you for sharing.
I'll make a comment about healing. Just cut myself twice. So it's fantastic. Good times. Sorry. It'll work. It's fine.
Oh no.
I'll do better. The point is, I brought it up because she's talking about healing. And I put Band-Aids and I wrapped it up because I'm actively looking towards a certain type of healing. Now, because I'm doing that, I keep a Band-Aid on it for like a week. You won't see anything. My skin will heal back to its whatever self. But I have other scars. I have scars from different wounds I just left open and I let scab. And that approach to what they're looking for, what approach to that healing, that if someone's looking for the wound to be fully healed and go back to a healthy, normal state as intended, yeah, you might see it a little bit, it'll be faint, but it's very different from someone who doesn't want to address it at all, just let it be what it is over time, and you got scars. Scabs, that even though it's technically healed, we know it's there.
Yeah.
We see them.
The big point is like, what's the resistance? Why is there a resistance to heal?
Oh.
To grow? Like, what's the resistance?
We talked about it. If we're really talking about grace and compassion, one thing that I have done to learn to give people grace, learn to give compassion, history, studying decades, the decade that your parent was born versus the decade they actually grew up in, what they were exposed to. Latchkey kids is a thing. That should not have happened that way. But then there was changes in the workforce, women having to go to work, wanting to go to work, because historically they were not allowed. They were being beaten. We go back to our grandmothers who were getting beat up like regularly, like listen to the music. That's why. There's shame there. There's guilt there. And then the choices that they made out of trauma in raising their children. And then having to look at those children, having to look at that child by that man from that time. Because we know that time. We're in that time. It's quick. It happens.
Yeah, I think a lot of the healing that we have to do, like as our generation, we're healing generations above us and our descendants at the same time. Like our healing is actually generational. Like we are dealing with a lot of generational trauma, like trauma that has taken place from our mother, from our grandmother, from our grandmother's grandmother, like, and now we are the result of that, and they're watching that trauma, like they're seeing it through us. And so our healing is literally going to help free them of their trauma and their hurt and the pain that they went through. So our healing is really important. That's why it has to start with us, and it'll help them to be like, wow, like there is a way that I can heal from this. I did experience an intense amount of trauma, but I see my granddaughter healing, so I can see some type of positivity. I can see some growth, and like maybe if they can heal, then healing is possible. Because I think a lot of times we don't think that healing is accessible. You just don't think that that's an accessible thing.
I agree that the healing is definitely possible. I feel like one of the biggest mistakes, right, that families make, that our families make, that the Black community makes, I believe that, yeah, is not talking about what happened. It's not talking about history in the past, because when you understand that for me, right? So my great-grandfather was in the war. So did that man come back with PTSD? So when he left his family, was he also struggling with PTSD? You know? So did he not know how to literally love somebody because he had to go kill somebody? And that is not something that we discuss or we start to really understand until we dig. And we consider like their stories and a lot of our families, because again, we don't talk about it, right? We're not gonna bring it up. But then now as a child, I'm just sitting here looking at you like, why are you like this?
I think what has to happen to really help them and really help us, because they're going to make their choices. Some of our family they're gonna go to the grave how they are. Okay. The digging, the looking for yourself, because we talked about scars. The scars that they have, we come back to compassion. Some are they can't talk about that. You can't. Who else's life are you going to affect if you say that thing out loud? I do believe that is the mistake that our generation makes, of not having a deep enough compassion for them. You're right. They've been to war. We've gone through things, and we see what healing looks like and how difficult it is. Would you be surprised if someone just didn't make that choice? Could you blame them? Really? That's something that I kind of want to leave on everybody's mind and everybody's heart. When we speak about these relationships, where we want them to go, what we want to see from them. All of the relationships, families, lovers, friends. We'll probably get into friends next month, because we should talk about that. Considering the full scope of what someone has been through, in the forgiveness and the not forgetting, because okay, you have this thing going on. You're kind of likely to continue doing this. Okay, I forgive you. I forgive you every time. I don't forget that you tend to do this thing. I get to alter the relationship now, because I accept and I know myself. I can choose how this relationship goes and still give and receive the love that you have to give, whatever it is, without asking you for anything from it. Because back to choice, am choosing this relationship. However, I choose to let it be.
I feel like that was, in my mind, that was the big answer to her question earlier. Like, if they stay in the same loop, then what do I do? You take yourself out the loop. You make a choice.
So, I think we've reached a good culmination point. Does everybody feel full? Does everybody feel blissed today?
Whoosh.
Yeah.
Everybody do it.
Like everybody do a little wiggle or something.
Right.
You know, let's move this energy around. I know it's been big. I know it's been a lot. I know I knew this was gonna be a topic that was gonna be sensitive, and I want to commend everybody for handling this.
Yeah, I want to
care.
offer something to the space. When we do have these are really intense conversations. Like, it's very triggering, it's very traumatic. I would say, give people a warning, like, hey, this might be an intense conversation. It might come with some trigger words. If you need to take a break, if you need to walk out, if you feel like you need to do that for yourself. Take care of yourself while we're doing this, and also maybe doing some like breathing work before we start to kind of get us grounded. I think a lot of us I was scattered. I wasn't really like present at first. It took me a little minute. So I think maybe doing some breath work, like some deep inhales, some deep exhales, getting our body involved, so we're paying attention to our bodies. I think that's a big communication point for us. Like when we're going through these really like intense conversations, our bodies are responding to this. So listen to your body. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Listen to your body, get what you need. I'm really grateful that we have a lot of things that people can get into tonight. So yes, get what you need, whatever you need tonight. Let's fellowship and kick it for a bit. We always do a little bit of networking here. So do we do the thing all the time where we go around the circle? Have we done that every time?
Yes.
We have? Wow, that's wild. Okay, well.
We don't.
I mean, we don't. We can. I would like our business owners and vendors to chat to us one more time and chat to us one more time and let the people know who you are, because we love when you guys come out and support us. It means the world. It means the world to just for y'all to share this space and be a part of this space, because you're family now. So this is what we do. Our vendors here.
Winter, I have a jewelry business, Seki Sesin. That means that's short for Sakmek and Lotus, so the lioness is Lotus. And I'm also a painter. You can follow me on Instagram at SEKHISESEN.
What's up?
I'm Mr. TV Diva. And I have the business, the Galaxy Lounge / Galaxy Goodies. Okay, we all under GG. Okay, this period. So Galaxy Goodies is my edible business, and the Galaxy Lounge is our women's collective of amazing goddesses who entertain and have their own businesses and stuff. So
Shout out to Goddess Gang.
shout out to GG.
And our lovely and amazing bartender, Miss Lundy. Can we give her a round of applause?
Okay.
And your socials and things for the people.
I guess social media is at home baby, but I think Sativa for keeping me in the loop about this stuff. It's rare that I am able to come out and actually host events or be invited to vendor events and actually be there. And so I always end up getting a lot out of it, and this was great. So thank you for that. I wasn't expecting this.
Okay.
No,
look,
not to be good. I
that's
knew it was
not
gonna
the
be
game.
good.
Oh no, I'm in
I wasn't
good side of
expecting
soul
to
how
be
it
like,
touched you.
yeah, like
Not it to be
was-
good, not like that. Sorry. I just want to throw out there.
I
Miss
knew it was
Milan
gonna
is
be
GG
good.
as well. In case you did not know, Miss Milan, my bad, is GG as well.
I am. I pop in the group chat every now and again with like a little heart. I don't really be saying nothing, but that's me in every group chat. Like, you just gotta see me in person chat.
That's
And then our Chef Frosty. Yes, one more time for the people. Can we like shout out this amazing food that I have not gotten to eat yet, but I'm really excited about it.
Thanks. What's up, y'all? I'm Chef Frosty. Follow me at Frostbite 5G. I cook a variety of foods. I specialize in vegan foods, though. So please hit me up if you need some zucchini fries or if you need some steak fries. Okay. Lamb chops or soy. I don't know. Just hit me up.
It's whatever.
I love it.
All right, loves. Well, I guess I do feel like, is anybody good with breath work or something? I do feel like a good cleansing breath or two would do us good before we break into food and libation and fun stuff.
Allie?
Awesome. Yay. So in the many things that I do, right, I'm a coach. I'm a holistic awareness coach, but I'm also into breath work, certified in breath work. So if you all are open and willing to participate, I'm gonna ask you to take just a moment to check in on your posture right now. Before we start to acknowledge our breath, I would like us to create space in our bodies for them to change. So if you can, go ahead and put your feet on the floor. Make your chin parallel with the ground. Give your throat some space to wiggle. So go ahead and roll your shoulders up toward your ears. Inhale. Exhale, push the back towards the wall behind you. Relaxing down your back. Take a quick wiggle to check in. And just put your hands on your belly. When we breathe deeply into our stomach, that's when we actually get a chance to relax. So I'm going to count you in. We're going to inhale in for 2, exhale out for 3. Inhale in. Get ready. Exhale out. Inhale in. 1, 2. Exhale out. 1, 2, 3. Inhale in. 1, 2. Push out your stomach. Exhale out. 1, 2. Really grind into that stomach. Inhale in. Get big. 1, 2. Exhale out. Biggest exhale of the day. Yes, we love sound. So inhale in one more time. 1, 2. And on this, let's give a big exhale out. 1. Keep going. 2, 3. Take a wiggle. Return to your normal breathing pattern. Amen and I'll show y'all.
Yes. All right. Shout out to us. DJ, can you hit a little music so we can eat and drink a little bit before we wrap this shit up?